Hey guys, it's Melanie. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. So today I thought, I've just seen the biggest amount of bird poop on my car. Bro, what the hell? Anyway, I'm gonna have to get that off before I start driving because that's gross. Anyway, today I thought I would take some of my favorite booktubers 5-star reads and read them myself. This video was obviously inspired by the crossover kind of between Destiny, Haley, and Sarah, and they all gave each other 5-star reads. I'm also adding Rachel Catherine to this list, so I've got 4 booktubers and I'm going to read one of their 5-star reads, and I know a few of them have been on my TBR, so I thought why not take this opportunity to read those. I do have 2 of the books on the list already, so I'm going to read their 5-star reads. I won't be able to read too much today because I do have work from 1 till 10, so I do have to do that, but I'm going to at least get the other 2 books that I need. So I'll take you on this journey with me and we'll see what I think of my favorite booktubers' favorite books.
Falling to pieces in my room.
Okay, so I've started Magnolia Parks, so this is going to be the first one that I read out of the 4, and I've only read the first chapter so far because I had to do an assessment, so I haven't really been able to read much, so I just submitted that literally like an hour ago, and so now I am reading. I've read the first chapter and it's giving English Gossip Girl just from the first chapter, and it's kind of giving Chuck and Blair from Gossip Girl, so I kind of like them, so I could possibly like this book. I'm keeping an open mind on it because I've heard people either love or hate this book, so I don't want to go into it thinking I'll love it and get disappointed. I don't want to go into it thinking I'll hate it and then hate it. So I'm going in with an open mind. I'm gonna read it and let my own thoughts kind of appear, I guess. Okay, so update on Magnolia Parks. I am only 50 pages in. I do like it. I am liking it. It's just, I don't know. And like, I've even tabbed things. So there's things I want to go back to and remember. So I'm liking it enough. I think I just have to get more into the story to fully understand their background, and I think I need to read more about them and their background and stuff to fully grasp their complicated relationship. I want to read it when I can actually take in what I'm reading and stuff, but it's pretty late. I've had a pretty long day. I'm gonna have a long day tomorrow. I don't know the last time I updated you guys, but I'm currently on page, can't really see, but 38. I did in fact get a Kindle, and it has made reading this book so much easier because the book is just, it's a lot bigger. It's like one of the taller books on the bookshelf, and I'm just not used to it. It's bigger, but because mainly at the moment with work, I only have time to really read at night time, and that's hard to do with a big book. So getting this has definitely made reading a lot easier. And so I'm about 60% of the way through it. I am enjoying it. I'm definitely enjoying it a lot more than I think I was the last time I left off, and that's because Tom has joined the chat. Basically, it's definitely made everything more interesting, and I love the weird dynamic between them as well. So definitely having him in there has made it more bearable to read. I'm basically just pissed off with BJ. He is annoying the shit out of me. Like, in this toxic relationship, BJ is definitely part of the main problem. Like, in my opinion, yes, Magnolia does stuff to hurt him in a way, but not as much as he does to her. Something will happen, they'll get into a fight, he'll straight away be like, nah, and go somewhere else. And she kind of is like, she thinks about it a bit, tries to go back, catches him being a douchebag, and then he gets angry at her for her being angry at him for him doing shit. And it just continuously goes in circles. I'm definitely interested in reading the second one in the series, and then also Daisy Hates, because she's been mentioned a couple times, so it's intrigued me about the other series. So I definitely think I'll continue on. But yeah, I will update if anything else interesting happens or when I finish the book. Sorry for the shadow behind me, my light is over there, that's all we can do. Anyway, I finally finished Magnolia Parks, and I have decided, after thinking about it, I finished it earlier today, and after thinking about it for a little bit, I'm going to give it a 4 stars. I really wanted to absolutely love this story and like dive into it and be absolutely captivated by it, and I was towards the end, but it did take me a long time to get into the book and read the book. Like, I think I started middle of March, or middle to end of March, I believe, and it is the 7th of April, and I only just finished it. So it did take me a little bit. It was mainly getting into the story and understanding the story and what it was about. Like, I knew it was about like a toxic relationship, and it wasn't really until, like I mentioned earlier, the side character Tom was introduced that I really started to get into the story. In this time, I also ended up buying myself a Kindle. I had bought it on Kindle, which definitely made it a lot easier to read. I will say I do want to read the rest of the series. Like, my main thing though was, yes, it was a toxic relationship and everything like that, and they both did stuff to hurt each other, but Beej, or BJ, or the name you want to give him, was so much worse, in my opinion, than Magnolia was. In a way, BJ used what was most personal to Magnolia, like within their relationship, against her, and flaunted that in front of her. I'm trying to do this in a non-spoiler kind of way, but it flaunted that in front of her, and I feel like that would hurt Magnolia a lot more than what Magnolia was doing. Hers was less personal. It was just kind of to have a barrier in a way, or like a safeguard from him and stuff, instead of, it was more in a way, yes, it was to hurt him, but it was also to protect herself more. His was purely just to hurt her. I'm really sorry if you love BJ, and maybe my opinion of him will change in the next book, but he was so much more toxic and was so bad for her compared to her to him. My one thing as well is why it wasn't a 5-star read was also, it was kind of the same thing that happened again and again. And definitely in like the second half of the book, it was a lot easier to read because different outcomes would happen. But in the first half, it was just kind of the same thing repeated. And like I said, until Tom was introduced, that it was just it was just repetition of this. So, but it was definitely from the second half of the book that I did really enjoy it. And I was contemplating a while today, after putting it down and thinking about it, whether it was very close to being a 3.75, but I just it was the last half of the book that I literally could not put it down. I was constantly reading it. Like, that was the point I got my Kindle, so I don't know if it was that made it easier, but it was genuinely the story. I just kept reading. That's kind of why it was brought up to that 4 stars. Kind of the final review I have on that one. The next book I'm going to read, which I have on here, you can kind of see, is Once Upon a Broken Heart, which is Haley Pham's 5-star read. I'll give you more updates as I get through it. Okay, so I've just reached part 2 of Once Upon a Broken Heart, and I'll definitely say this, even though it's only the second book, is definitely the easiest that I've been able to get into. Like, I literally picked this up and it's been a bit slow a little bit, but when I first picked it up earlier today, I flew through it. I read 60 pages in one sitting, which for me is a lot. Like, as much as I love reading, sometimes it's a struggle for me to just, especially starting a book, just to sit down and get into the book and actually fully get into it. Like I said earlier with Magnolia, it took me forever to get into this one, but this book has been so easy to get into and pretty decently easy to understand the world at the moment as well. The one thing I will say, this beginning part, like, some of it felt very rushed. Like, I feel like more in this beginning part could have been explored, and I don't know if that's going to be explored later in the book, but at the moment definitely really enjoying it. Some thoughts and like kind of theories that I think might happen, definitely have to read more into the book to see if that was just based off other fantasy books I've read before and how it kind of goes, or if this is going to go a different way. So I will keep you updated on anything else that happens. Okay, so I thought I would give a little update on Once Upon a Broken Heart. I am up to chapter 28 now, which is, I think, 20 pages, under 200 pages. So I'm quickly making my way through it. Like, I haven't had as much time to read lately because I've had a lot of uni work I need to catch up on. You probably would have seen that in the study with me I posted somewhat recently. So I haven't had much time to read, but when I do read it in large chunks. Like, I'll read 30 to 40 pages at a time, which for me is a lot. Sometimes I can only, like, depending on how tired I am or how like much I've used my brain that day, sometimes even a chapter is a lot. But it's very easy to read, very easy to get through. I'm at the moment a little confused on what the main plot is meant to be, because there was the plot I thought was going to happen when I started reading the book, and then I think there's like a couple different things that have happened, and I'm like, okay, what's the main plot of this? So that's kind of my only thing, and it's a lot more fairy tale than I thought it was going to be. Like, it's very, very fairy tale, and which I think for me, I'm just not used to that. It's not a bad thing at all. I'm liking it. I'm just not used to the very, very fairy tale-ness of it. My main thing is just considering I've made that much of the way through and I'm still unsure of like the main plot of what's kind of happening, and I really have no predictions anymore of how this is going to go, because I made a prediction and then it's just not that. So yeah, that's the only thing that's kind of confusing me at the moment. But yeah, I will give you my thoughts when I make it more of the way through, and if I have any predictions. Okay, so I did not know how long it would take me to read 4 books. It's gonna take a hot minute, I'm telling you right now. I started filming this mid-March. It is currently the 2nd of May. So, but considering my main form of reading at the moment is my audiobooks, but I'm not reading these books through the audiobooks because I want to like properly read them. When I properly read books, it takes me longer because like my main focus is like work and uni at the moment, so it's harder to find times to fit these in. But I've only got like a month left of uni, so hopefully I'll be able to either finish or shortly finish these. But Once Upon a Broken Heart, it's been a while. I've had to read it up really broken up, and I also think part of that is because it hasn't really captured my attention to, like, if I really liked a story, I could stay up all night and read it, no problem. I would deal with the consequences the next day. But for me, so far, this book isn't worth losing sleep to read it. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm really enjoying it. It's just very different from what I thought it was. Like, it's kind of been a mumble jumble of a whole bunch of things. Like, like the whole first part was like, here's a plot point, here's a plot point, here's a plot point, here's a plot point, all to lead to this main plot point, which I'm on now, which like there's like kind of the main plot point started only like halfway through the book. So I'm getting towards the end. I've got like 60 pages left, but I do have work. I have to go to work shortly, because I think it's like almost, I have to leave at 5. So I will hopefully finish it tonight when I get back, depending on how tired I am. If not, I will try and finish it tomorrow morning and finally get this book done. But update, it's over there. I officially bought the second Magnolia Parks book, so they're very interested in reading that. I've seen a lot more kind of people read that and say that they like the Daisy Hates kind of books more, so we're gonna give them a go. I'm probably gonna buy the rest of the series anyway, read it anyway, because they will look very pleasing on my shelves when I can finally have my shelves up again. We're getting real close and personal today. This little part of the video is going to be in my car because I have been trying to film my like final thoughts on Once Upon a Broken Heart for a while, but my brother has kind of like injured himself at work, so now he's like at home and he's not working, and so I can't really film in the house. I just feel awkward doing it while someone else is there, so we're gonna film in the car. Like I said earlier, I did not realize how long it was gonna take me to finish these books. Like, I've only completed 2 of the 4 books, and we're on to like month 3 technically, I think. So that's fun, and I'm currently in the big assessment time at uni. Anyway, Once Upon a Broken Heart, definitely not what I expected. I don't know what I thought going into this, but it wasn't what happened. I think it's the most like fairy tale kind of fantasy book I've read so far, so I think that took some getting used to as well. The whole first part kind of jumped kind of plots a bit. I had guesses on what would happen and it did not go that way at all, so I'm definitely intrigued to read the second one, because I don't know if the third one's coming out or if it's just a duology, but I'm definitely intrigued to read the second one because I kind of want to keep going on, but I also want to continue the Magnolia Park series. And yeah, I'm so glad that the next 2 books are standalones as far as I'm aware. There's a little kid yelling at a bird. I think on Goodreads I gave it a 4 stars. It's more of a 3.75 than a 4, but you can't really do things, so I kind of round. So I gave it a 4 stars, but it's technically more of a 3.75 because I don't know if it was just because I was stressed with uni work on top of like reading this as well, that sometimes I just wasn't drawn to reading it, but yeah. Also, I don't know if I explained that, just so you guys get the idea of why it's taking me so long to complete these, is I have work and uni and dance on top of doing this. Like, my schedule is jam-packed, so finding time to read in the first place is a rare occurrence. I would say at least a third way into the book that they finally kind of got into like the main plot of what was happening. So the first part was a bit confusing on I was meant to like kind of expect or predict, so that was definitely a bit iffy for me. Although when I first started reading it, I flew through it. So starting it was fabulous, and I do believe that some part of me not completely enjoying it was the fact that I've been doing so much on top of trying to read this book. So if I were to go back and reread it, maybe at a later date where I'm not trying to do things, I probably would enjoy it a lot more. The romance in this book is a little confusing. I don't know. I thought it was a fantasy romance. A romance is definitely implied. Not much happens at all with a romance. It's kind of giving the same as The Cruel Prince in that kind of aspect of like romance wise within the first book anyway. Like it's implied that it's gonna happen, but not much has happened at all. You can see that they care for each other in a way that they're not meant to, which is good. We do kind of love a forbidden romance. You can see that they do care for each other in a way they're not meant to. but not much has happened. So I hope that more happens in the next book of that. I don't know, the way she also wrote the like stepsister, I feel like could have been better. Her kind of not being good was just kind of chucked into there. I feel like if she made the sister like actually really good and innocent, that would have been better in my opinion for this read anyway. That's kind of my overall thoughts that I remember anyway. So I gave it like a 3.75, 4 stars. So it's still good. I still liked it. Still intrigued to read the next one.
Maybe I've been going nowhere lately.